The Simpit Indycar series was at Pocono for the second to last oval of the season. Pocono is actually a tri-oval that measures in at 2.5 miles long, and each corner features a drastically different angle and banking, making the setup of the car a bit difficult. Also, with the high speeds of this track, drafting would end up playing a huge role in the 65-lap long race. This week's race drew 30 drivers, and the grids were split into 2 races with 15 cars in each room. The top split being a strength of field of 32.04 and the lower one being 17.95. Sitting on the pole in the top split and for the start of the race was Brandon Trost, who qualified with a lap time of 41.017, and on the outside of him was Alex Simpson starting in second. As the pace car turned in for pit lane, Trost was quick on the gas and he drove his car down to the inside line to prevent any draft as he went into turn 1 with a slight lead over Vic Codhill, who had jumped into second, and the race was underway. Heading into turn 2 of the first lap, Codhill took a look to the inside of Trost and took over the lead. Alex Simpson also was taking a look, but stayed in third as the field made it through the first lap clean. It was also at the end of the first lap that we would see drivers pushing 3 wide down the front stretch as Ricardo Skyvon went by both George Najux and Fred Phillips to the inside, moving Skyvon up to 4th as the front 3 had jumped out to a small lead. This pass was short-lived as Najux carried a ton of speed off turn 1 and passed Skyvon back going into 2. This is exactly how the racing would be all day long at Pocono. On lap 7, after moving into 4th, Najux had caught up to Simpson, who had fallen back from the lead too. He drafted him up the front stretch and made his move into turn 1 and passed him low, taking over the 3rd position. On lap 9, we saw our first tense moment of the race. Skyvon had been fighting with Herman Fander for a few laps. This let Brandon Traino catch up to the both of them. Going into turn 3, Traino made a move to the inside of Fander. Fander slid up the track, but kept it out of the wall, and Traino kept all of his speed to pull to the inside of Skyvon going down the front stretch. By turn 1, he had the position, but Skyvon fought right back going into turn 2 and passed him right back, only to have Traino pass him back again going into turn 3 and finally holding on to 4th place. Traino had jumped up 9 positions in as many laps, having started in 13th. Simultaneous to that action up front, Brandon Trost made a move on Codhill in turn 2 and was able to regain the lead again. Lap 12, Codhill had fallen back from Trost and George Najux had started to challenge him for 2nd position. They went 2 wide into turn 1 with Najux down low, side by side through the entire corner until Najux came up slightly. Codhill ran out of driving line and impacted the wall hard. He did a great job of keeping the car up in the wall and out of the driving line, but it still brought out our first caution of the day and ended Codhill's early. Before the race, fuel mileage was a potential concern, but this caution brought every car to pit lane and solved that issue for the day. The race off pit lane was won by Trost as the drivers prepared for the next restart that would come on lap 15 with Brandon Trost in 1st, George Najux in 2nd, Brandon Traino now in 3rd, Alex Simpson in 4th, and Ricardo Skyvon rounding out the top 5. When the pace car dropped in, Trost got a good jump once again and dove down to the wall to break any draft. The top 5 headed into turn 1 in the same order, and we are back underway again. And this time it was Najux who drafted Trost into turn 2 and made the pass for the lead. Lap 18, coming off turn 1, Trost got a good run on Najux and then swung down low going into turn 2. He was able to make the pass and take back the lead again. And true to what we had been seeing all day long, George Najux returned the favor again and found himself leading the race. This battle allowed Simpson and Traino to close the gap, and the top 4 were running together again. For the next 10 laps, things remained mostly the same until Simpson started to challenge Trost for 2nd. The two of them would exchange 2nd place lap after lap, time after time. The entire time, Trano sat behind them looking for his way through the battle. When all was said and done, they sorted out into the exact same running order as Najuk still led the way with 30 laps left in the race. But the battle between those two started again until finally on lap 37, Simpson pulled into second place and Trost was then passed by Trano as well as he lost speed down the front stretch. Just as Simpson took over second, Najuk's up ahead, hit the apron, had to slow up into two. Simpson powered through for the lead. That same lap, I was making a pass on Yori Flossie in turn 1. As I came up the track, he picked up an arrow push and slid up the wall. He got major suspension damage and tried to keep the car going. But going down the backstretch, something broke and sent his car up into the wall, into the air and over. Just as the caution was being thrown, Najux was on his way to pit lane and Trost at the last second came in as well. The pace car pulled out onto the track, Trost got tires and fuel and was on his way, but Najux was on pit lane forever. A lap later, the rest of the leaders came down pit lane for tires and the battle off pit lane was won by Brandon Trano, but this would still leave him behind Trost, who got into the pits just prior to the caution being thrown. The restart came on lap 41 with 25 laps in the race. Trost was leading the race with Trano in second, Simpson in third, Herman Fander in fourth, Skyvon in fifth. At this point, I was in sixth place, Armando Edwards in seventh, Andrew Dixon in eighth, Fred Phillips in ninth, and Martin Carroll rounding out the top 10. As the pace car pulled onto pit lane, Trost took his now familiar line of running down low and jumping on the gas. He got a good lead into turn 1 and once again with Trano running in second. Only a lap later, things started to get a bit crazy with cars going too wide down the front stretch all the way through the grid. As Skyvon and Fander fought through turn 1, there was some very slight contact and this sent Fander up into the wall of turn 1. I had Armando Edwards to my inside and nowhere to go and ended up caught in the mix as well. This brought out the third caution of the race and did end Herman Fander's day. The next restart came on lap 46 with Trost still leading the way and doing his swerve on the starts as usual and getting things back underway again. And only a lap later, the Brandons were going at it side by side. This battle would even result in the slightest rub as they even touched. Simpson and Skyvon sat right behind them with nowhere to go and Edwards was right on their gearboxes as well. But coming off the final corner, Edwards slid out and hit the outside wall coming off turn 3. He ended up spinning the car onto pit lane, no caution. Lap after lap, the Brandons raced each other hard, exchanging the lead back and forth. Each lap it heated up until on lap 50, they headed into turn 1 fighting for position. Neither driver would give in until they finally touched, with Trost being sent into the grass going into turn 1. Trost somehow not only came back onto the track, but he also kept up his speed and despite dropping many positions, was right back into the hunt again. That mix-up did cost Trano some speed and the lead, as once again Alex Simpson was able to go by him and take over up front. It was only a lap later that Trost pulled to the inside of Martin Carroll and took back the 4th position. And a lap after that, and also going into turn 1, Trost went to the inside of Skyvon and took back 3rd. With 10 laps left in the race, Alex Simpson was still in the lead, but he was being stalked by Brandon Trano. Brandon Trost was in 3rd and doing everything he could to catch back up to them. And Skyvon was running 4th and just a little bit back of him, and just a little bit back of Skyvon were Carroll, myself, and David Hanger running nose to tail. 5 to go, Simpson was still leading, Trano still lurking in his draft, Trost still reeling them in, but still a little too far to strike, and the rest of the grid had fallen back even more. With 2 to go, Simpson's lead had grown very slightly, and he was looking like he was in control of the race. And then with just under 2 laps left, Robert Gort spun the car coming off of turn 1. Despite being all alone, this did bring out a final caution and meant that this incredible race ended behind the pace car in the order that we were running. Alex Simpson won the race, with Brandon Traino finishing in second. Brandon Trost finished in third, followed by Ricardo Skyvon in fourth, Martin Carroll in fifth. I finished in sixth place, David Hanger in seventh, George Njux in eighth, Andrew Dixon in ninth, and Fred Phillips finishing off the top 10. After 10 races in the books and only 2 left to go, Ricardo Skyvon has an almost unbeatable lead. He sits with 1,001 points, which is 208 points more than me in second with 793. John Hill is in third, followed by David Hanger in fourth and Karsten Berdowie in fifth. On a side note, I would also like to congratulate Daniel White Sr., who did win the second split race. Next week, it's back to road racing, California style, on the IRL variation of Sonoma. This wonderful 12-turn, 2.2-mile track features massive elevation change and a variety of different corner types that should make for a great race. If you would like more information on this series or to see more videos like this one, please head over to thesimpit.com and look for the IndyCar Series tab. Congratulations once again to Alex Simpson on his victory, and we'll see you next week from Wine Country.